Well, Agency Enlightened is here, ladies and gents. I hope you enjoy this module as much as I enjoyed making it for you and delivering it to you today for free. Oh my God, for free from my heart and from the heart of all of humanity. Enjoy and know that I am no longer in business. I've sold pretty much all my equity in Better AMS. I'm now an inactive partner who holds a minor stake, and that is official, signed on the dot. Wow, 7 or 8 years of running and that thing and starting it, and I am out, ladies and gents. It feels fantastic, and I pray that all of you who are going on this journey are served well by the content in Agency Enlightened, and that it helps you reach a point where you have financial freedom and that you can live in the middle of the jungle and hold this tripod thingy with a straw hat and talk about whatever you want to talk about, okay? So enjoy this module, and know also that there's a link in the description for accessing the resources and the action items that you need to, complete whatever the module is. It's all there, it's all free. And know that if you want to support the nonprofit that I'm starting called Satori, you can go in the link in the description and you'll be able to opt in to be notified when the Satori podcast goes live, which is going to be probably in a matter of 2 or 3 months or something like this. Real quick, before the module begins, you can just fast forward and skip this intro because it's going to be on the every single module intro if you don't want to know this. But Satori is a nonprofit dedicated or devoted to helping mankind realize the self by sharing God's word. So that's what I want to do, and that seems to be where all my energy is going these days. If that sounds interesting to you, you can go and check it out and drop your little email in the landing page thing, okay? Thank Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, Mary, and Mother Teresa, and all the great sages and avatars that walked on this earth. May it be so that all of what is spoken out of Satori is heard and understood by all of mankind, and that it is felt as the gift that it is from my heart, okay? Mwah! I love you all very much.
Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to a very exciting module. We're going to talk about recruiting talent. Let's dive straight in. So there's a lot to cover in today's module: when and who to hire, system overview, job description, ideal talent profiles, talent database sourcing training, hiring and training sorcerers, automating outreach, KPIs, talent pipeline interviewing, offer letter, and mental models. Let's get started. So when it comes to when to hire, it's a simple question of how much money you have in the bank. And who to hire is another question of who can bring the greatest ROI, return on investment, to the agency the fastest. And unless you have raised money, then in the early stages of your agency, you're likely not going to have a lot of capital, and thus you're going to have to hire more reactively, when you need it, forcing you to basically, again, hire out of necessity, because if you don't, you likely won't have any cash. And the late stage looks a little bit different, because late stages, when you're growing your agency, you typically have a lot more capital saved up, you have greater runway, and thus you can proactively hire people before you need them to help you grow the agency faster and in a more healthier, sustainable way. So when it comes to early stage, which is, again, you kind of have a short runway, meaning you don't have a lot of cash in the bank, small reserves. This forces you to hire reactively out of necessity. And so knowing who and when to hire in the early stages is actually very easy, because, again, it's just, where are you experiencing the most pain? Are you unable to manage more accounts? Are you unable to do this one thing anymore just because you simply don't have time, etc.? This is quite easy to understand, because wherever you're experiencing the most pain is who you're going to need to hire. And when you need to hire them is when you can't tolerate the pain, right? When you truly just can't go any further, you've maxed out. And we're going to talk about maxing out here in a second. And this is actually something we can remove from this point in the slide. And the late stages, you can proactively hire somebody 30 to 60 days before you actually need them. That's kind of the ideal time frame. It prevents the agency being unable to grow when you proactively hire, which is why it's important that you build up cash reserves, because if you just reactively hire forever, it's kind of like start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. The agency comes to a complete halt and it cannot take on any more clients, it cannot take on any more additional revenue because there's just no capacity. That's what we talk about when we talk about being maxed out. There's no capacity to take on more clients, service more people. And so when you hire proactively, it allows you to constantly have capacity, right? And then in the late stage, you can also place bets by hiring talent that really maybe won't deliver an ROI for like 12 to 18 months into the future. And that's really exciting. So big reserves, late stage. It allows you to hire proactively, place big bets. It's really exciting. And so to better understand this concept of shifting from early stage to late stage, typically what it looks like is you are maxing yourself out. So let's imagine you're doing 0K MRR, you just started, and then you've scaled up to like 10K a month. Now you're maxed out. Let's say you hypothetically can't take on any more clients. You're just kind of like close to burnout. Now you need to hire somebody. This is the perfect time because ideally in the process of getting maxed out, you've saved money. Okay, and this is an important concept as well, because if you're not saving money, then you're just going to be in this terrible cycle and you're never going to be able to make the hire that you need to help you get to, the growth, to get your agency to where you actually want it to be and to be the size that you want it to be at. So you need to save as much as possible. Just, it's basically a matter of you paying yourself as minimal as possibly, as minimal that you can possibly withstand. So once you've hired somebody, then you want to max yourself out again. So let's say you're at 10K a month, you maxed out, now you hired somebody, so you have capacity to go to 20. Okay? Let's say you get to around 18 and you're like, ooh, I'm feeling maxed out. Great, now you need to hire somebody. And repeat this cycle and save as much money as possible. And we loop and loop and loop and basically go from max out higher, until eventually we reach a point where you do not need to hire reactively. You don't need to max yourself out. You don't need to come to a point of like, holy crap, I can't take on any more clients. I'm feeling very overwhelmed, You don't need to get that to there, because now you have a few $100,000 in the bank. You have months and months and months of runway. And when you have these things, you don't need to go and max yourself out. Really, it's only in the early stages you need to max yourself out because you're producing capital. You're building up reserves. So this is kind of an example. Better AMS, when we started, we hit about 10K a month, and I was like, ooh, I'm feeling like I really just can't deal with all of this. And the first hire we made was a virtual assistant, because there's a lot of admin, monotonous, one-off tasks that I really needed help with. And then we hired that VA, and I started to get maxed out around 18K. And then I felt like, okay, the problem now isn't just admin, small, minor, one-off tasks. It's actually just communication with clients. I really need somebody to take over client communication. And so we hired an account executive at 18K MRR, which is when I was really maxed out. And then around 30K per month, it was like, well, we need to hire somebody that can really help us automate a lot of things. So we hired an automation specialist. And shortly after that, we hired another account executive. And we kept looping up, from 10K MRR all the way up to, whatever it is, like 140-ish now a month. And another point that I'm going to make here is that in the beginning, your margins are so high, 70 to 90%, because it's a very lean operation. It's just you, right? And if you are, like I was, living at home, I'm not paying rent. I was paying a little bit for food. But like my expenses could have been easily like personal just to live, like $300 a month, like groceries. That's all we're talking about. I'm not paying rent. I'm not paying electricity. I'm living at my parents' house. Okay, so $300 a month on 10K MRR. I mean, that's I only need to pay myself $300 a month, right? So margins can easily be 90%. And even if I move out and I move somewhere, I can find a place that it's not going to cost me more than, $1,500 a month or something like this. So it's important in these early stages, when you have the ability to do 70+% margins, to just save as much cash as possible, because it allows you to get your agency from 10K MRR to 100K plus MRR much faster. If you sacrificed paying yourself a high salary early on so that you could do it, scale faster, and then pay yourself a higher salary later on, okay? And it's better that you save that cash, pay yourself as little as possible, hire who you need to hire, and begin, quickly scaling up into a later stage, which is towards Agency Enlightened. And the 10 to 30% margins is just really kind of what typically happens as you begin to build a big team and you hire a lot of people. This is probably where our margins fluctuate, somewhere in this range. It's averages somewhere in the middle, maybe 18%, somewhere in there. And we've pushed it down to 0. We've pushed it even down to negative. And it's kind of preferential at this point. I would say that it's quite rare to see an agency that's doing, 7 figures and also has 50+% margins. That's quite rare. If it's possible for you, amazing. That's fantastic. But it could also mean that your team isn't really as good as it could be. I'm just hypothesizing here, because it is quite rare to see 50+% margins. So this is really a very important concept that you need to understand, because I don't want you to, assume that your margins are going to maintain 70 to 90%. And I also don't want you to think that your salary is not a big deal if you pay yourself, very well early on. That is a very big deal, and you need to be very careful about it, and ideally pay yourself, again, as little as possible early stages. So now coming into hiring people, there's typically 2 types of talent that I like to reference to: offshore and onshore. Normally, when you're first starting out, offshore hires is typically who is first. Offshore is really just talent that is very cheap because they live in certain parts of the world where it's very cheap to live, such as the Philippines or India or, places like this. And then you have onshore talent, which, again, for me, being from Canada, onshore talent to me would be like talent from Canada or talent from the United States, or from Europe or UK, something like this, where the average salary is $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year, something like this. And so just so that you're aware, this is something that we're going to reference to, but normally the first hire that makes the most sense is like a virtual assistant for $2 to $3 an hour. Okay, we'll consider that an offshore hire. And then what makes sense normally, again, just I'm kind of generalizing here, is an onshore hire as your second hire once you have that first hire. So offshore, easy and fast hire. There's minimal repercussions for a bad hire here, because it's very easy to replace talent offshore. Typically, again, I'm talking about very simplistic roles like virtual assistants that can help you with monotonous things such as data entry or pulling information, organizing information, yada yada. And then there's onshore, which is a very hard hire and much slower process, and there's massive repercussions for a bad hire, not only because the salary is 100 times higher, but the potential of the talent is 100 times, 1,000 times greater than offshore. So we're going to talk more about this here shortly. Onshore, your first onshore hire, in my opinion, must be someone who has the potential to be your business partner if you don't already have a business partner. And if you do already have a business partner, we're going to talk about who this person should be. In Sector 1 of Agency Enlightened, this is a worksheet that was referenced. I believe it was from the Fundamentals module. And finding a partner worksheet This is a very important thing to understand, because even if you're not looking for a partner, you should be in the first person that you hire, even if you already have a partner. And the reason for this is because from my own experience in Better AMS, in the first 2 years, I had no partner. And in 2018, I had a partner, but the friction was high, and I really didn't know what kind of partner would be ideal. And so that relationship ended after a year, and I ended up buying him out. And then in 2019, I found an amazing partnership with Destiny, and we've never really had friction in the same way that I had with my previous partner. I mean, there's moments where we disagree strongly, but it's positive. So one thing that really exploded the growth of Better AMS was Destiny, because her skill set was something that I lacked, and we really balance each other out. Our skill sets go hand in hand together very well. And this concept of visionary integrator, which was talked about in a previous model, I'm bringing it back to this module because it's so important. Destiny is a really good relationship builder, big idea generator, strong EQ, operates very much on emotion, but is very logical as well. A thought leader, jumps from project to project, always thinking long term, and really doesn't follow some type of strict routine. Opens, closes big deals. Like, this is really a visionary in general. Any visionary will resonate with these bullets. And on the other side, it's the opposite, which is me. And there's the systems builder, analytical, reliable for finishing projects, operates on logic. I like making things efficient. I like strict routines. I really like to focus on one thing and execute on building things. And this is really what was missing from Better AMS. And although I was able to get the agency to around 30-ish, 35 K per month in MRR, it wasn't easy for me to take it from 35 to 140. And it really became natural and quite a very smooth process when Destiny came on board. And her skills started to increase and her confidence started to increase. So in my opinion, your your first hire that's onshore should be this person, right? Should be somebody that is your opposite. And so if you have a business partner and you're an integrator and he or she is an integrator, that is not ideal. That you guys are the same people. You can't have that. There's no neurodiversity there. So you want to take this Finding Your Partner worksheet, because there's a rocket fuel assessment here, which you're going to see in the document. And it'll tell you if you're a visionary or an integrator. And so if you have a partner, you and your partner or partners should take this test to find out who is what and where you're dominantly sitting on the spectrum, whether you're integrator or visionary. So that way, when you go to make your first onshore hire, which is a very important hire, I can't stress how important this is. It's by far the most important hire in the agency, because it's your first onshore hire. It's someone like you that has the capacity to build this agency and grow it beyond where you've grown it. Okay? I typically have found that this is not possible from somebody that's offshore. It's just different. Everything about it. I've worked with people from the Philippines for 4+ years now, and absolutely amazing humans, great people, very hardworking. But can they resonate with our clientele on a level that I can? No, because they live in the Philippines, and the lifestyle there is very different relative to the lifestyle where all our clients live, which is in the United States. And so the ability for someone that's in the Philippines to open up and close big deals worth 6 figures and become a thought leader in our space, by nature of where they're from, is very difficult, not only because of the language barrier, but there's just so much to it. So your onshore hires are very important, because again, typically these are people who are just like you. They're from maybe where you're from, and they have this same capacity as you to create an agency and grow it exponentially. So your second onshore hire is also very important. Ideally, this should be someone that's a good mix between you and your first hire. So if you're a visionary and your partner's or you hire an integrator as your first onshore hire, and now you've scaled your agency more and you're looking to make a second onshore hire, then ideally you want to find somebody that's a healthy balance between you two. And this is really what we've been able to do with Better AMS. I can't tell you that this was planned. Unfortunately, it wasn't. It was just very much lucky that all of our personalities aligned extremely well. So Destiny was brought on, and she was a complete visionary. And I had no idea at the time, but it just evolved so perfectly. And then we hired Alex as our second onshore hire, and he is really a good mix between an integrator and a visionary. I think he leans a little bit more on the integrator side, but he's right in the middle between both of us in terms of his personality and the way he operates and looks at life and his lens of, viewing the world. So it's a perfect balance. And so if you do this right and you really strategically plan your first few hires that are onshore, you can really develop your leadership team very early on. And ideally, these people can be part of leadership. They can turn out to be partners in the agency. And this is so powerful, because now it's not just you who has the capacity to greatly grow the agency. It's you and 2 other people. So it's just like the ability to grow is 3 times as powerful. It's actually more than 3x, just because of the neurodiversity. The effect is probably 10x greater than what it was when it was just you. So please be conscious of your first and second onshore hires. These are very important, very, very, very important hires. I can't stress it enough. So you want to make sure you're taking these tests that I reference in the Finding Your Partner worksheet, and really be strict about bringing that first and second person on. Once you have a visionary and integrator, and ideally someone who's kind of in between that, you should continue to hire for neurodiversity. This is a constant theme that you'll hear me talk about. We want to constantly hire people that are, bringing diversity to the team in terms of how they think. There are certain scenarios where this may not be true, such as if you've found that there's a specific type of person that you need to hire very frequently. For us, this is like an Amazon advertising specialist. There's a certain type of personality profile that seems to be best for this role, then we're only gonna try to hire people like that, right? That's kind of goes against this concept of hire for neurodiversity, because we've identified this profile that is idealistic for this role. And so we want to continue to hire that and hire that and hire that and hire that and filter out everybody else. But that's really the only scenario where I think that kind of goes against this concept of hiring for neurodiversity. So let's talk about the system overview. Now that we've gone through who to hire and when to hire, those important questions, now we can get into recruiting and the system that you can build to be able to hunt down ideal talent and make really good hires and find these people. How do you find them? Where do you find them? That's what we're going to answer. So the system that we're going to be going through is as follows. It looks like this. This is a better recruiting is what we called it. The goal of this system is to really give us a less than 30-day hiring turnaround time. There's various different subsystems. One is sourcing, one is outreach, and one is interviewing. And there's components within that and metrics that we measure within each of those subsystems. And so we're going to go through all of this here in this module. So the first element that we want to talk about, subcomponent or component, is a job description. And there's a very normal job description, and then there's a very new, kind of enlightened form of job description. This is what a normal job description looks like. And you may have written one of these. It's okay. Everybody has. I've written tons of these and posted them, and this is very normal. And this is very not normal. And this is what I want to show you right now, because here it is, Better AMS job description. First of all, it's just immediately different in the design of it, the use of emojis, the structure of it. There's images, there's videos, there is links to other things. I mean, GIFs. It's kind of entertaining to look at. And so we've really done our best to make our job description stand out amongst the rest of the market. And not only stand out, but stand out and reflect that which we are, right? And so this job description really reflects who we are inside of Better AMS and gives people a sense, without even meeting anybody, what we are like, because of, using weird stuff like this and like Roadrunner, Looney Tunes, GIFs and stuff like this. I mean, this is really, I've never seen a job description like this, and a lot of people have given us feedback that this is one of the best job descriptions they've ever seen. It's not like it's not rocket science, it's just different. It just looks so much more different than the typical job description that is so bland and pure text based. And the only real variation to it is maybe the color and the font. So the first thing that I want to just explain to you is the components that I think make this engaging or unique, which is it's entertaining, first of all. It's engaging. If you read it, it's an easy read. It's nice to read. You can skim through it well because of the way it's written. It's not blocky, giant text. It's unique. I mean, very obvious from the moment you see it. This is different. There's depth to it, meaning we talk about our culture in depth. We reference certain items in it. We talk about role progression. We try to talk about and answer everything they could possibly want to know about joining Better AMS and give them all the information needed to really feel it out. So we have videos of us, in Mexico, year-end retreats, to give them a really good concept or vision of what it's like hanging out with the team and how we all are. And then it's CRO optimized. I mean, it's conversion rate optimized because this stands out a lot. And I think someone that reads this and the depth that's in it and just how easy it is and entertaining it is to read is going to be much more likely to convert into an application than something that's bland and boring and normal. So the process for building this is referenced within the job description, the recruiting system worksheet. Point 1, build your job description. To build an engaging job description, we use Notion and try to include all these components in your page. And then I have some instructions here on how to build it. And then also there's some instructions here on how to set up your application survey, because obviously at the bottom of this, there's the ability to apply. And I show you how to set this up if you'd like to also set up a survey or you want help setting that up. So that is building your job description. A really exciting, fun thing to do. I had a blast building that thing. I think you'll really enjoy it. Now, ideal talent profile. This is the next really important component that you need to build. And again, we're going through all the components that are making up building a good recruiting system here so that you can find really good talent. So ideal talent profile, this is really something that just gives you clarity. The purpose of it is to ensure that there's clarity on who exactly you want to hire. It's pretty much the exact same thing as your ideal client profile, except just imagine it for talent. Instead of a client, it's talent, like the person that you want to hire. And again, we have this located here in Notion. And I'm going to show you this in a second, but the process for building your ideal talent profile is explained again in the worksheet, just because I want to keep this module light. I don't want to go into the weeds here in this module. So come here to section 2, build your ideal talent profile. There's a quick video here explaining how you can get started. And then also we reference our ideal talent profile in Notion here so that you can see it. In this video here, I talk about, this ITP. So in this video here, I talk about the ITP, what it is, how it's different than your job description, et cetera, et cetera. So Continuing forward. Next thing is a talent database. So you want to get this built, and we've already built one, so we're going to share a template with you here. But again, this is very simply just a place where your sorcerers, your team, virtual assistants are likely going to use this, assuming you don't have like a CRM or something else that you want to use. I highly recommend you use a Google Sheet to be able to store all the talent that they find and organize it here into a nice little database. And I like Google Sheets more than a CRM of some sort just because it's more flexible, but use whatever you prefer. Just make sure that you go through the video here in the Build Your Talent Database process. So first, all we ask that you do in this step is really to create a copy of the talent database and then move on to step 4 because we explain how to actually use it. There's really nothing you need to do other than create a copy to build it because we've already made it. So make a copy of it and then you can move on to step 4. I'd recommend you just watch this module to the end. I mean, if you're pausing the video and then going and trying to do it, that's fine. You can flow however you'd like to flow and go through this module and do whatever, however you feel best. But personally, I'd recommend you just finish this module out and then download the worksheet and go through everything step by step. Now, sourcing training. This is a very important element in the recruiting system that needs to be delegated because sourcing is a very monotonous and easy task and it can be done for $2 to $3 an hour. Okay, and so it needs to be outsourced. Building the training on how to actually find ideal talent profiles is an extremely high value task that you must complete. That task is worth hundreds of dollars per hour. Because you're going to be handing it off to somebody for $2 to $3 per hour, and they're going to be saving you a ton of time. There's no way you should ever be doing sourcing more than the time it takes you to build the training. So here's what we've learned, in our journey of finding the most efficient way to source ITPs, ideal talent profiles. That should be a lowercase s, but it is pretty simple. There's a concept called talent pools, and this is really where you find a pool that contains a lot of ideal talent that you're looking for. So let's imagine that I'm looking for I want to hire Amazon advertising specialists, and so I'm looking for talent pools, like pools where these people will congregate. And so it's pretty simple. They congregate within our competitors' companies, right? That's where they work. Where do these people work? That's pretty much how you find these talent pools. If they work at your competitor companies, then you're finding all of your competitors. And each competitor that you find is basically a talent pool because if you look at their company page on LinkedIn, you can find all these people within it. So finding talent pools and mining them is one important concept we've kind of identified in the recruiting process. And competitors, as I said, is probably the best way to find ITPs. You can simply use Google to find competitors and other companies related to your agency that contains your ITPs. Or you can use something which we've recently started doing, which is a very efficient process, LinkedIn Recruiter Lite. I love this tool. It really revolutionized our ability to find more talent in a much faster way. It basically just allows you to set up search parameters on LinkedIn to find people that match your ITP. So talent database, in this database, we have a section designated for talent pools. This is discussed in the training videos that are in the worksheet. We're not going to go in depth here. And in LinkedIn Recruiter Lite, there's actually a section called talent pools, which is really funny. So this must be a really common term in the recruiting world. And this is basically, you have the ability to set up these filters, like I want to see everybody that's in the United States and has Amazon advertising written in their bio or written in their description or in their job title, whatever. You can set up these filters. And once you've set up a filter, you've basically found a talent pool And so you can save that filter and then mine the pool and save the talent that you find to your pipeline. And so it's a really good tool. Now, this is, again, discussed in depth in the worksheet. And so you don't need to worry about how to do this. It's going to be explained in the worksheet. Now, the biggest bottleneck in this system, and I want to mention it now, is sourcing. It's truly, this has been the most biggest constraint on the throughput of our recruiting system. And so it makes it one of the most important things that you set up properly and you build really good sourcing training. I mean, you can think about it. If the outreach is automated, which it is, and we're going to get to that section in a moment here, it's the only time-consuming thing that isn't automated is the finding people part of this system, which is sourcing. And that's a very time-consuming thing to do, because if you have a very specific niche ITP and there's not a lot of people in the world that fit that ITP, maybe your virtual assistant or whoever is your sorcerer is only able to find 15 people a day. That's not a lot of people a day. That's only, something around 450 people a month. So that's not a whole lot of people that you can reach out to every month. So if you can get your sourcing abilities to finding 50 people a day or 100 people a day, you're not going to have any issues. But if it's 5 to 10 people a day, this will start to be a bottleneck for you. And so I'm just giving you a heads up that this is typically the thing that will take the most time, that you'll have to really just build really good training for and monitor closely. So build your sourcing training. This is just, again, a section that is discussed in the recruiting system. Step 4 here. There's 2 videos. Watch video A first and then video B. And we go in depth on how to use the talent database and also sourcing in with Google and LinkedIn, and then also sourcing on LinkedIn Recruiter Lite. So we talk about our best practices that we've learned in those videos. So let's talk about hiring and training sorcerers. This is actually just covered in depth in the worksheet because of the fact that it's a very weedy topic. And so there is all the steps here. Hiring a sorcerer. Watch this video first. It's a short video that's going to walk you through this entire process. And not much else to say here. Just go through and follow the steps, because again, it's not worth putting in a module here. It's better in an SOP format. And a sorcerer, again, very important, because again, like I said, you need to delegate sourcing. You cannot be doing sourcing. This is not something that you should be spending your time doing. It's worth $2 to $3 an hour. Training a sorcerer, this is an extremely important part. This is where you actually train them on sourcing. And so there's, again, another section in the worksheet. I'm not going to reference the worksheet. It's there, step 6. And there's a video walking you through the steps that you see below here. Now, managing a sorcerer is very simple. Really, we just have a Slack channel called THR. This is Trojan Horse Marketing, Trojan Horse Recruiting. And we have our sorcerer here who basically just comes in and posts how many ITPs he found each day, okay? And so right now he's averaging close to 30, around 25 plus a day, which is good. If we can maintain 25 plus a day, we're sitting at around 700, 650-ish, 700 for the month because he doesn't work weekends. And that is fantastic. So really, this is all we're looking at is just, I want to see how many people he's found each day. And if this number decreases, let's say it goes to 10 a day, then I'll just ask him, say, hey, what's going on? Why is it decreased? Did you run out of talent pools? And I might have to hop back in and update the training or find a better way to find ITPs, assuming he's not able to. So, automating outreach. This is a very weedy and awesome process. It's covered in step 7. So I highly recommend you go through this. It is not in your highest and best interest to try to manually do outreach. I've done a lot of manual outreach before, and we've actually gotten better results with literally a simple automated message that can be universally sent to pretty much anybody, any human on earth. It's not customized to any degree that is very specific. You're going to love this because we actually tested sending custom looms, like custom loom videos to people, almost like Trojan horse marketing, but Trojan horse recruiting. And we would send the loom video that just says, hey, I saw your profile, absolutely love your experience in the industry. Not sure if you're open to a new role opportunity right now, but we are currently looking for somebody who has your exact skill set and experience. And so if you're open to considering it, I wanted to send you this job description and maybe you can check it out. And that's really what we would send. Just quick 20, 30-second video. Hey, love your profile. Because in the beginning I thought, okay, we need to have this like highly personalized touch, and that's what's really going to get us the most applicants. And actually that was very untrue, because when we automated the outreach and we just used a simple text-based message, the performance was much stronger and we got more applicants this way. So again, every industry is different. I recommend you split test, but start by testing out automating the outreach with this system that we've developed here. And all these steps go through it, and we give you the exact outreach sequence that we use, the exact template, the copy, everything. Obviously you're going to change this because you likely don't run an Amazon advertising agency, but this is all of the information is given here. Very, very exciting part of the process. Now, KPIs. So these are typically the most KPIs, the important KPIs that you need to measure. Talent source per day and per month. So you should have a Slack channel that your sorcerer will post in every day and say, hey, I found 25 ITPs. And at the end of the month, they will tally it up and say, hey, at this month, I found this many ITPs. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Outreach. You want to measure interview rate. Now, you can measure this however you want. I like to measure it as such. So total connection requests sent, and divided by the actual number of people that we did interviews with. Actually, that may be the other way around, but those are the two variables that we're looking at. So if we sent out, so it was the other way around, sorry. So if we got 5 applicants, we would divide that by, let's say if we sent out 1,000 connection requests, great. We have a 0.5% interview rate, which is quite low. It's actually quite a bit higher than that from what we've seen. I think our interview rate was around 2 to 3%, somewhere in this range. So it was quite good. But that is how we like to measure interview rate. And that just gives us a good metric to know, because if your interview rate is, let's say, 3%, every 100 connection requests that you send, whether they're accepted or not, the point is that you just sent them, you'll know that you'll get about 3 interviews. And that's an important metric. Now, it's not applications received, it's interviews done. Okay, so meaning you actually got on a call with them and did an interview. Because if you just measure it by applicants, well, some people may apply, but then not show up to the interview, and that's a less qualified person, and I don't think should be counted as, success in the system. So that's how we measure the success of our outreach, is interview rate. And the success of our sourcing is ITP per day, ITP per month, right? And then the success of our interviewing itself, which this could be also considered the success of the entire process, is the hiring turnaround time. So if you started this on April 1st and you hired somebody on April 29th, wow, you had a 29-day turnaround time. Fantastic, right? But if it took you 90 days, then it was a 90-day turnaround time. And so you just want to note the moment you decide, okay, we're looking to hire for this person, and we're starting today, whatever day that is, write that down. And then when you actually hire the person and fill that position, you need to write that down so you can begin to measure the end goal of this system, which is ideally a less 30-day hiring turnaround time. Okay, you can measure your turnaround time, which is really important, because if you know your turnaround time is 45 days or 60 days, then you really need to be then now you have a good awareness of like, okay, our turnaround time is 60 days. So if we think that we're going to be maxed out in 60 days, we need to hire, because we don't have, which sucks, because ideally your turnaround time is less than 30 days. Because if you have a less than 30 day turnaround time, it's pretty good, because you can typically know if your agency is going to be capped out in, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks. It's quite difficult to know where you're going to be at in 2 months, right? So if you can get a less than 30 day hiring turnaround time with a recruiting system like this, fantastic. It's going to allow you to have better margins and just better ability to continue scaling without having to stop and reach and be maxed out and have no capacity. So this is why we strive for a less than 30 hiring turnaround time. Now let's talk about the talent pipeline. This is something that we're going to show you how to build and set up. Actually, I don't think we actually go through the Zapier setup process because it's quite straightforward. But we just set up a simple talent pipeline here in Asana. You can use whatever tool you want. You can use Trello. That'll be free. Trello's free. There's so many free Kanban boards like this that you can use. And really all this is doing is pulling in people that apply and putting them into this application section with their name and their information when you click into the card. And then we can drag them into each of the stages. If we reject them, we'll drag them to the rejection stage, which you can't actually see in the screenshot, but it's a little bit further to the right next to the hired. And if we interview them, we'll move them to the first interview, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So talent pipeline is just important because as you get a lot of applicants, it gets quite confusing to know who is in what stage, et cetera, et cetera. So this, I think, is something that is needed, not in the very beginning, but once you start getting a few applicants a week, it's something that's really helpful. So in the worksheet, if you go to step 9, you're going to see we have the build your talent pipeline, and there's a quick video that will guide you through completing this step and setting this up. So yes, it's pretty straightforward. I don't believe we go through the exact Zapier integrations because we use Asana, and it's unlikely everybody here uses Asana, and also setting up a Zapier integration for something like this is very easy. So it's very not difficult to figure out. Now, interviewing. Just take a sip of water. So these are the two things that we really interview for: skill fit and culture fit. Skill fit is typically quite easy to vet for, assuming you have the skills of the person you're looking to hire, because you'll know what questions to ask and how to verify whether or not they are qualified for the role. And so for us, when we're vetting for Amazon advertising specialists, it's very easy because we know all the questions we can ask them to vet their Amazon advertising ability. It's oftentimes actually things that are less tangible, more intangible, and quite difficult to see, such as their communication abilities. And this is not necessarily something you can figure out by just asking a question or two. Amazon advertising, there's so many different questions you can ask to get a good idea on what their experience is like, but their ability to communicate is such an important thing that we look for. And so not all skills are tied to the service that you're providing. So for example, again, we're looking for an Amazon advertising specialist, but we aren't just going to hire the person if they've been managing billions and billions of dollars in ad spend and they have tons of experience, because if they can't communicate well what they're doing, then they're going to be useless to us because they can't communicate well to the client, right? So it's not just about the service that you're providing itself. There's also some intangible, fundamental skills such as communication and other things that can be put under this concept of skill fit, okay? And skill fit, really, if you look at your job description should pretty much define and outline what it is, what skills you're looking for. Okay, so when you're writing your job description, you're writing about the typical things that you want this person to have, right? And so you can typically reference your job description if you're wondering, okay, what things am I actually looking for? And if you have no idea, well, then your job description is quite poor and you need to update it. If there's no reference to certain skills that they should have or responsibilities, etc. Now, culture fit, this is a much harder thing to gauge because understanding if they're a culture fit or not means getting to know the core of who they are. The core of who they are. The core meaning there's beliefs. This is the very core of who someone is their beliefs. And out of beliefs comes behavior, and out of behavior comes reality. And so really to know if someone's a culture fit, you really have to go to the depth of their beliefs, which is not an easy thing to do in the interview process. And again, this is, I basically said all this, but beliefs is a leading indicator of your behavior, and then everything else follows. So culture fit, measuring this, you're basically referencing to your vision, mission, core values. In this case for us, we reference to our culture canvas because a lot of our principles are here. And so, if I'm in the interview process, I want to make sure that this person definitely has our top priorities, which is like work ethic, and they are happy with the idea that we prioritize being a team over a family, and the fact that they are better than other people we've hired. We always want to hire people that are better than everyone else, so that we're constantly raising the bar for our talent. And then other things we look for is like hospitality. We love people that have experience in hospitality because typically these people are very good at communication, and they're good at diffusing clients when they're very emotional or when they are unhappy. They're just very service oriented people. This is something we really, really, really desire, and we want, and we vet for heavily. Service oriented people that are extremely friendly and have strong work ethic could be one way to simplify the person that would be a really good culture fit inside Better AMS. But the point is that you need to tie the person that you're interviewing to your canvas or your values that you've laid out wherever you've laid it out. You should never hire someone that's not a great culture fit, regardless of how skillful they are. This is a very common thing you'll hear amongst lots of companies. Zappos is a good company. I think they say their way of saying this is basically don't hire genius assholes. It doesn't matter how genius they may be. If they're an asshole, they're going to do more harm to the company than they could do good. So a classic example of this, we did make this mistake just once. And we had to let go of this person after about 9 months of them being in Better AMS, or maybe it was a year. But basically, these non-culture fit like humans that you bring in will destroy your entire culture very quickly. I mean, it does not take much. They're typically like a virus or a germ that comes in and they just attach onto other people, and they like leech the energy from other people, and other people feel that this person does not really fit and belong here. And they're like, oh, why is this person here? But it's not within their control to fire the person or let go of the person. That's in your control, and it's your job. So classic example of this. We interviewed this person, and we basically said, no, hey, it's not a good fit. And then they came back and was like, no, I really want to do another interview because yada, yada, yada. And they had a bunch of reasonings, and they addressed a lot of our concerns in our rejection email. And so we said, okay, fine, we'll give you another chance. And we did another interview, and we were really on the fence, but we decided, you know what? Okay, this person has a lot of Amazon advertising experience for, lots of years, and we're quite on the fence, but we'll try it out. And never should we ever done that, because the fact that we were on the fence and we weren't certain that this person is a good fit was a lesson in itself that we learned, that if we're on the fence, we should never hire the person. We should be certain that they are a great fit for the culture and they're going to vibe with everybody else in Better AMS. That person brought out a side of negativity in several other people, actually couple, maybe primarily one other person in Better AMS. And, several, brought out a side of negativity in several other people. They were quite negative, and just did not vibe with service-orientedness in our agency. And there was so many points of friction that was caused that finally we were like, hey, we really need to let go of this person. And it was very obvious that it wasn't a good hire very quickly. Maybe within the first month or two, we realized, oof, this was a bad decision. So it cost us a lot of money. It cost us a lot of time. And you really just never want to hire somebody that isn't a good culture fit. If you're on the fence about them being a good culture fit, they're likely not a good culture fit. Typically, when it's a good culture fit, you just know, like, oof, yes, this person's great. They're really going to vibe with the rest of people within Better AMS or within whatever, your agency. So building your interview script. I mean, this is a question of skill fit. How qualified is this person to handle the responsibilities of this role? And identifying if they are a skill fit for the role is a matter of just asking the questions that help you answer this question, right? So what questions can you ask that will help you identify whether the person's qualified for the role? And then the culture fit is really how well would this person vibe with the culture of your agency? How well would they get along with everybody else in the company? How long would they get along with you? If it's only you in the company, that's fine. How well would you vibe with them? That's when it's really kind of easy to gauge, because if it's just you know whether or not you'll really vibe with this person. You know what you value. So that is located in building your interview script here. And I also reference my personal script that I use here if you'd like to look at this. All the questions that I've found and ask is here, but make sure you watch this video first. Okay. So post-interview, you should always rate the applicant in depth. Why? If you have some type of talent evaluation database, something like this, that allows you to rate them 1 to 10 in certain areas, now you can reflect. So that bad hire that we made that wasn't a culture fit, but was a good skill fit, that I was just referencing. This person was one of the lowest rated people in our database when we rated them in the sheet, and yet we hired them. Terrible decision. And when we look back, hindsight's 2020, but we were like, why in the world did we hire that person? We rated them so poorly. It's like, what was going through our head? And what was actually going through our head was the fact that we urgently needed to hire somebody because we had clients in the pipeline that we couldn't sign. And that is what caused poor decision making. And so we learned a big lesson. Never hire somebody poor just because you can take on, you have revenue in the pipeline waiting to be signed. So this is a talent evaluation database. Now, I'm not giving you a template to this because we're actually planning to make this a lot better. But take the concept of this. It's really simple. You have, your top column here, column 1, interviewer, who's interviewing, the candidate's name, and then the various different skills that you want to rate them on. So what is their Amazon ads? What's their EQ? And we're rating them on culture fit, leadership, prior success, work ethic. So find 4 or 5, maybe 2 or 3, doesn't matter, things that you want to rate them on. At a minimum 2, culture fit, skill fit, but there's probably other things. And then you can have a total score, and that total score can be then turned into a percentage. And then now you can have a percentage that tells you, everybody who interviewed and what their score was that they rated them. Then we have summary of strengths and weaknesses and additional notes. That's just for writing in certain things. And again, this is a very good thing to do because after you've made a hire, you can come back to this 6 to 12 months later and say, okay, we know how this person is in the agency now and how they've turned out. How did we rate this person? Maybe you rated them very poorly, or like not very poorly, but maybe you rated them decently well, but they turned out to be an absolute all-star and they're just crushing it. Okay, what did you miss? Now you can reflect. Now you can go back and say, yeah, what did we miss? Why didn't we see that this person was really good? Or if you rated the person very high and they turned out to be a really poor hire, now you can go back to your notes and go back to the things that you wrote and the ratings, and you can improve because you have this reference point where you can go back to and say, ooh, why did I miss this? How did I not see that this person was going to be a bad hire? And you can kind of connect the dots. And when you start connecting these dots, this is when you start getting better at hiring because you're learning from previous mistakes or flaws or whatever, and just, yes, it gives you the ability to be so much better. But if you don't rate them and you don't take any notes and you don't have anything like this, then you're not going to be able to kind of reflect as well as you could if you had something like this. So again, you're going to have to build your own sheet like this, but it's a very simple thing to do. You can literally copy the same style we have here, but we're going to probably just merge this into Asana or something like this so that when the person comes into Asana, we have some type of way to do this, or we're going to turn it into a survey. I'm not too sure, but we're going to clean this up and make it a lot better. So that's why I don't want to share it for now. Okay, so offer letter. Now we talk about the moment of truth. So once you've found somebody that you really like and you want to hire, you have to present them with an offer. Pretty straightforward. This is how we prepare our offers. We have a nice little Canva outline here. Let me actually show you what that looks like. So here's what it looks like. And so we put the person's name in, and then we have our company information. It's just a high level overview of the most important things. And so there's salary, start date, benefits and perks, other things, commission, and then some of our core values. It's pretty much it. So very simple, very straightforward. And the other thing here is an employment agreement, which is automatically basically created through remote.com, which is a service that we use for dealing with all like the legalities of hiring somebody and making sure it's legal relative to their state and wherever they live, yada, yada, yada. I forget the exact name. I think we're going to cover it here, but let's continue. So yes, making an offer letter in the worksheet. This is referenced here. And very simple, very straightforward. I mean, consult with a local attorney for legal best practices. Include the key components for the offer in your letter, and just have a deadline. So basically tell them, hey, if you can get back to me by, in 48 hours or 72 hours, that would be much needed / appreciated. And you can also define how they can accept it. They can accept it via a written statement, like over email, like, yes, I accept this offer, or signature, verbally on the phone, doesn't matter. It's a very simple process. Again, we built our little offer letter in Canva, I think it was. So Canva is like a cheap kind of graphics design software. And remote.com, and using something like Remote, we are going to talk about in the managing talent module, I believe is the name of it. It's the next module in this sector, I believe. So in that section, we're going to talk about using a service like Remote. There's other services that you can use for helping you with all the legalities of hiring somebody. This is not something we're going to go in depth on right now because it's pretty weedy, and this is something that Alex is really good at, and he's going to cover in the next module. So without further ado, let's talk about some mental models that are very important. So never hire poor culture fits. We talked about this. Never do it. Neurodiversity, have other people in your company interview to gather greater insights on whether or not it's a good fit, right? So if it's just you interviewing because there's nobody else in the company, that's fine. But if you have a good sized team already, you shouldn't be the only one that's interviewing. You should have at least one other person that's interviewing with you so that you can have greater insights. And ideally, that person that's interviewing is not at all like you. They should be completely different. So if you're an integrator, they're a visionary, right? Ideally, you have this partner that's your complete opposite that can interview to give much more insights on the person. I can't tell you how much better I feel interviewing people, knowing that Destiny and Alex also are interviewing these people, because they think so much more different than me. And we all think differently, so we can get a really good, diverse perspective on the talent that comes through. If it's a great fit, make an offer. There's this thing that, like, this concept of waiting to see if you can find someone better But if you're doing this, if you're like, I really like that person, but I think I'm just gonna wait to see if we can find somebody better, that just simply means that you really don't have clarity around who you're looking for exactly. And so if you think the person you've interviewed is a great fit, give them an offer. Even if it's the first person that comes through out of your recruiting efforts, it doesn't matter. You really need to know your ITP well enough to the point where if it's the first person that you interviewed and they're a good fit, you hire them. You don't think I might find something better, da 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 da. Nope. You should know well enough who you're looking for and be able to pull that trigger the moment you find that person. Okay. Don't have this whole like FOMO, like fear of missing out. Oh, what if I could find somebody better? It's like, no, you found somebody. They match your ITP exactly. Perfect. Hire them. Give them an offer. Okay. Don't be a robot. An interview done well should feel like a regular conversation, in my opinion. It's not something where you're just like reading off of a script and they're responding and you're taking notes. And you're not making any eye contact. Should be a regular conversation. We do video calls for all of our interviews. I highly recommend you do that. I don't think you should ever do just audio. You should always do a video call so you can get to see the person. There's so much greater depth to the interview when you can actually visually see them and connect with them. And then the last one is address anxiety. So when someone talks about their reasons for leaving their current role, take time once they're finished talking to let them know this is not something that they have to worry about if they join your agency, assuming that's true. Let me give you a really classic example. A lot of times I'm interviewing somebody and, when I ask them, why are you considering leaving your role or why are you looking for a new role? They tell me, well, the current agency I'm working at, they set really poor expectations with the clients and, they tell the clients that we're going to be able to increase their sales by a ridiculous amount. And then, they give me the account and the account is clearly not going to be able to reach these goals that they set in 60 to 90 days. And then when that happens, the client's really disappointed and that falls on me. And I feel terrible because it's like, well, why did the salesperson who closed this client tell you this in the first place? Like, that's so da 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 da. So this is a huge concern. After they explain that concern to me, one, I'm just going to let them finish talking. But once they're done talking, I'm going to say, hey, I really want to let you know this is something that we never do. Actually, something that we take a lot of pride in is the fact that we set very, very clear expectations with clients. We never oversell ourselves. We never overpromise. We don't do this. We really don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. This is not something that we want to do. It's not something you have to worry about. Another example is, some people will tell us, well, the agency they give me way too many clients. I'm so spread thin. I can't even think straight. I have 22 accounts. And I don't even have enough time to service them properly. So it just feels bad because I don't think I'm doing a good enough job. Whereas if I had less accounts, I could do a much better job. And so they feel like they're just unable to do anything. And again, in this case, this is something that our agency is well aware of. And I'm going to address their concern and tell them, hey, look, in Better AMS, we're well aware that this is a very common problem in agencies. It sucks. We do not do this. We limit the amount of accounts we put on somebody by X, and we address this anxiety that they have, okay? So addressing the anxiety is a really important thing because it's a really great sell point, and it also just puts their concerns to rest and makes them feel more comfortable about joining your agency. Mental models and other guiding principles are listed in the interview script here, or in the interview script worksheet. So that worksheet is, let's just pause this. Okay, so in the recruiting system worksheet, in step 10 where it says build your script, if you click on the interview script template, we have here the interview script for building it. And inside of this, we listed the mental models for interviewing and also some other guiding principles, some of which I've mentioned here. So pretty straightforward. That is there. And without further ado, here's your action items. Begin building. So download the recruiting system worksheet and begin building, ladies and gents. Everything you need for building this recruiting system is located within that worksheet. There's lots of videos going through everything step by step. If you have any questions, of course, you can come on the coaching calls or post in the group. But without further ado, let's get to work. Thank you so much, ladies and gents, for watching this, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.